We're going to continue on with this. A day of marches and rallies in support of immigrants' rights. Most expect the crowds to be smaller than last May's protest, but the big issues are just as big. And my next guest represents both sides. Dan Stein says immigration laws should be tougher, and he is the executive director of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Brent Wilkes, well, he wants to ease immigration laws. He's a national executive director of the League of United Latin American Citizens. Can we accomplish anything with these rallies today? Go for it.
Absolutely, we can accomplish tremendous amounts. These rallies are a great outpouring of democratic spirit in our country. People are voicing their opinion on a very important issue, and they're saying, let's give these individuals a chance, let's give them an opportunity to adjust their status, become permanent legal residents of the United States, and to live the American dream like so many immigrants before them. And in fact, the majority of Americans support this. We've seen polls recently, 78% of Americans in the USA Gallup poll say they support the opportunity for immigrants to pay a small fine, to learn English, to undergo background checks, to do all the right things, and to have a chance for permanent legal residency. So it's a tremendous strategy, and it's working well.
Dan, are we accomplishing anything with these rallies today?
Well, I think the rallies are a lot smaller. I think they are setting their cause backward because people look at this and they go, wait a minute. I mean, I thought we, the American people, decide who gets to come in, how many, and under what conditions. I didn't think that people had the right to just break our laws, force their way into the country, and then demand not only the right to stay and be rewarded with green cards and citizenship, but also to bring millions and millions of relatives down the line. I mean, the outcome of this debate will be determined whether or not we're actually a country anymore that actually can decide who comes in and whether we control our borders.
And many of the people who are out there today, and some who are not out there, saying these stepped-up raids that have happened in the last couple of months are keeping them away. Let's listen to our Homeland Security Secretary, Michael Chertoff, talk about these raids, and then we'll talk about it as well.
We're obviously sympathetic to the plight of children who find themselves caught in this situation, but we do have to remember it is the parents' choice to break the law. We always do these raids in a way that takes care of children, makes sure that we've taken steps to coordinate with the local authorities. But at the end of the day, we cannot compromise on enforcing the law simply because somebody has given birth to a child in the United States.
He's talking about the children that sometimes get left alone after these raids and people are taken into custody. Brent, what do we do about that? Because there is a human side to this, of course.
Well, there's absolutely a human side to this. The fact is that we have the opportunity in the United States to pass comprehensive immigration reform, to stop splitting families apart, and that's what we should do. We have the ability to do that. It's good for us, it's good for immigrants, and there's no reason in the world we shouldn't do it except to be spiteful and mean-spirited and negative. We should not do that. That is a wrong thing to do, and we don't have to split these families apart. Now, the Secretary, he has a job to do, I understand that, but they're enforcing the law in a way that they shouldn't have to. They should go after those worst offenders like the Secretary is committed to doing, the people who are really committing crimes and are doing things other than immigration violations, that are doing things that are wrong.
Dan, jump in here. I mean, are we doing this just to be mean-spirited?
No, look, the point is that you can always reunite the family back in the home country. A parent who's deported has a legal and moral obligation to take their minor child back with them. They're setting up this ludicrous situation here, which in the end is polarizing the debate. There's not even a legitimate effort on the Hill. The so-called comprehensive reform doesn't really have the basic elements that would actually help us regain control of our border. We should not be leading the debate by deciding what do we do with people here illegally now. The first question should be, how do we restore credibility to U.S. immigration policy and law? How do we get control of our borders and make immigration serve our interests as a people, not foreign governments, not people who want to come here and work and cheat the system, not dictators who want to offload people that they ought to be working to find jobs for.
Okay.
We should be deciding who comes in.
All right. Well, both of you guys, I want to hit a couple of the hot button issues. Of course, the raids, and then also language. There's this big discussion about language. People who come to the country should speak English. Not everyone does. What do we do about that? Dan?
Well, if the numbers could be brought down, I hear people say we need a moratorium on raids. No, what we need is a moratorium or a timeout on immigration so that we can absorb and assimilate the millions and millions of people who are coming now. Instead, Congress is going to set off a chain tidal wave with the bills in the Senate that would add another 100 million people to our population in the next 60 years, a lot of them from countries that don't speak English. How can we absorb and assimilate people unless we take some kind of a pause and give ourselves an opportunity opportunity to absorb and assimilate this huge tidal wave of immigration that has come since 1975.
But people say that what's wrong with being bilingual? What's wrong with being more educated and speaking different languages?
I want my kids to learn 15. Everybody should learn 20 languages. That's very different than saying you who live in Dayton, Ohio, cannot go to L.A. to get a job as a firefighter unless you speak Spanish. And that's what's happening. Discrimination
is that,
and the victims
Brent,
are
is that
US
what's
citizens.
really happening here?
Yes.
I mean, if you can't, in English-speaking places in America, are people applying for jobs in huge numbers and not? Do you agree with that?
Not at all. I think that the reality is all immigrants, the vast majority, want to learn English. They're desperately trying to do that. In fact, we teach about 50,000 people English every single year. You know, Dan's group, they haven't taught a single person English, and yet they think they're the champion of English.
Okay.
We're the ones who are helping people assimilate. We're providing them the tools. We can help them assimilate. We can help them become full participants in the American dream. You've got to stop listening to these divisive people that are trying to tear our country apart and pit American against immigrant. We have always been a nation of immigrants. We've always had an opportunity to bring families together in this country. Their hard work has contributed to the success of our nation.
I'm going to have to, guys. I'm going to have to jump in here because we're running out of time. But I want to ask real quickly, and 10 seconds. I mean this, both of you. Or I'm going to cut you off. What do we do with the 12 to 13 million people who are already here? Dan, you got 10 seconds.
All right, enforce the law. Interior enforcement, employer sanctions, detention, deportation. The vast majority will either go home or marry citizens, or if you do enforce the law, in 10 years the problem will take care of itself.
All right, that's your 10 seconds. Brent, go ahead.
We need to fine them with a fine that's commensurate to the violation of law, which is a misdemeanor violation of law. Make them pay their fine, and then let's move on. Give them a chance to become full participants in the American dream. We can do it. We have the ability to do that.
All right.
And it's just a matter of willpower.
That's going to have to be the last word. Thanks to you both.
Thank you.
Okay, from America's border.